रूपकथा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापतिकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी सत्यदेव नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरत्से नमः हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So we'll continue from where we left last Monday. Can somebody recall what we had discussed?
Prabhuji, we discussed the Arjuna questions about the Kshetrajna, Jnani, and Krishna answered question number 1, 2, and 4. What is a Kshetra, Kshetrajna, and Jnani?
Very good.
Prabhuji, Arjuna basically asked 6 questions and Krishna starts explaining them. And in last class, we finished with 3. Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Jnani, Gneyam, Prakriti, and Purusha.
Yes, Prabhu. Exactly. All of you are very studious. Only thing in Ishopanishad, you should have written OBS from your own understanding, but many OBS were repeating the same thing. So some of you have got little less marks. You have to repeat. OBS can be written in your own words. What you're understanding, right? It should not match with somebody else's OBA. Yeah, first question was exactly, most of your questions were resembling with 15, 20 devotees had the same answer, the same thing. Content was different, but the headline was same. Anyways, what else we saw apart from the 6th question? And the contents was Kshetra, Kshetrajna, and Geyam. Yeah, first 7 verses we finished. What else we saw? Any other points? I think we saw that chart. I think I showed it for the shloka number 367. Creation chart. Lord Vishnu breathes, Kala Karma Subhava. Then from that comes Pradhan, Mahatattva, then Ahankar. Ahankar gets divided into 3 parts: goodness, passion, ignorance. Ignorance is the body, 5 elements and 5 sense objects. Passion is intelligence and senses. And then goodness is mind and sense devatas. So this aggregate together, Sangata, is a body. Yadriksha, yadriksha, yatcha, yadriksha, yadvikari, yatascha, yat swabhava, yat prabhava. We had seen this thing. So yatcha is the components, that's 24 elements. Yatascha, yadriksha is senses and sense objects, eyes, ears, nose, karmendriya, gyanendriya. Then matra, this take shelter of the body. And then we had discussed Yad Vikari, the transformations which happen in the subtle body, dualities, and the 6 changes of the body. And then what is this Swarupa of that body? What is Swarupa of this Kshetra. The Kshetra field is taken as Swarupa of a body. 84 lakh species are there. So each have different bodies. The body is the Swarupa. And what is the purpose? Enjoyment or liberation. Either the living entity goes down in the consciousness or he elevates himself. He can come to the level of becoming eternally liberated by going back to Godhead, or he can sink in the species. Jalajanama Lakshani, Stava Laksham Shati, Krimika Rudra Sankeka, Pakshi Trimshila, the Pakshi Dashalakshani, and Pashuva Trimshilakshani, and Chatushlakshani Manusya. So 84 lakh species. He can rise in that. It's like a Paris wheel. He can keep on reading in that. So purpose is liberation or enjoyment. And what is the Prabhava? Prabhava is he resides and he can influence based on his Purva Karma. That thing we saw at the last. A child has a activity field of his fencing backyard. He can play, but this is fencing. Earthworm has a influence of it can just roll inside in a hole. And basically, based on one's karma, one has this influence. But ultimately, one is bound. We had seen that. So continue. So how we can get free from that bondage? We need some knowledge. So continue with that theme of Jnanam. Krishna explained in the third shloka Jnanam. Jnana means to know matter, spirit, controller of both. So how to achieve that Jnana? The process of learning that knowledge. Krishna is going to explain. That is the link between 7th verse to next 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And we had seen this in Ishopanishad. Vidya, Avidya, especially in Vidya verse. So there Prabhupada writes, the first 9th verse was, one who cultivates knowledge, one who cultivates avidya, he goes to darkest region of ignorance. And one who cultivates so-called knowledge, he goes to even more darkest region of ignorance. And the next shloka is, one destination is achieved by cultivation of knowledge, and the another destination is achieved by cultivation of nescience. So in that 10th mantra, Prabhupada quotes this Bhagavadgita verse, which we are going to read today. Amanitvam Adamitvam, if you remember 1 year, I think almost in last year, June, we had discussed Ishopanishad, if I'm not wrong. Somewhere in June, July. Yeah, in July. I think you had a Ujjain Yatra that time. We had started it during Ujjain when I was in Ujjain. It was in June 24th, 25th. Yes. The shloka in Ishopanishad is like this. Anya devaur vidya anya rahud avidya iti shushuma dhiranam enastad vichakshare. So in that Prabhupada mentions about, as advised in chapter 13.8 to 12. This is 13.8 to 12. Prabhupada begins the purport of that Ishopanishad verse, quoting this shloka which we are going to deal. So there we had not dealt it in detail, but today we will try to deal it in detail, what this is. So Krishna next explains the process of knowledge, that process which helps the living entity transcend his insignificant and limited backyard. Basically, for Earthworm, the area in its whole is a backyard. For a rich person, might be 100 of acres of land, garden might be his backyard. For aquatic, water is its backyard. But ultimately, in this material world only, subject to 24 elements. So this is a continuation of Krishna's explanation of knowledge. Krishna has already defined knowledge as knowing the field, Kshetra, and the two knowers of the field, Kshetragya. For the two knowers, soul, super soul. These verses describe the process of obtaining jnana. So what is going to be described is not jnana. It is the means to, or the process to obtain knowledge. Okay. So these are 5 continuous verses. We'll just recite this. Amanitvam madam vitvam ahimsa shanti marjavam acharyopasanam saucham stairyam atma vinigraha indriyarpeshu vairagyam anahankara evacha जन्म मृत्यु जरा व्याधि दुःख दोषानुदर्शनम् आसक्तिरनभिविस्वङ्ग पुत्रदाराग्रहादिषु नित्यं च समचित्तत्वम् इष्टानिष्टोपपत्तिषु मयि चानन्ययोगेन भक्तिरव्यभिचारिणी विविक्तदेशसेवित्वम् अरतिर्जनसंसदि अध्यात्मज्ञाननित्यत्वं तत्त्वज्ञानार्थदर्शनम् एतज्ज्ञानम् इति प्रोक्तम् अज्ञानं यद् अतो अन्यतः. So these 20 items of knowledge is knowledge, jnanam, and anything apart from this, etad jnanam iti proktam. The last two lines of 12th verse indicates etad jnanam from 8 to 12 and half verse. That is 12th verse, first half. Tattva jnanartha darshanam. Adhyatma jnana ittattvam tattva jnanartha darshanam. Till here, it is called as knowledge. And the last line is ajnanam yad ato anyataha. Anything which we try to acquire or try to study, the name of education, everything is ignorance, avidya. So this shloka starts with amanitvam. Amanitvam adamvitvam, ahimsa shantir arjavam. So Prabhupada has given in detail explanation of all these words. And we'll just see the word to word meaning and then proceed with the purport. Amanitvam, humility. Adamvitvam, pridelessness. Ahimsa, non-violence. Shanti, tolerance. Arjavam, simplicity. Acharya upasanam, approaching a bona fide spiritual master. Shaucham, cleanliness. Thairyam, steadfastness. Atma vinigraha, self-control. Indriyarteshu, in the matter of senses. Vairagyam, renunciation. Anahankaraha, being without false egoism. Eva, certainly. Cha, also. Janma, of birth. Mrityu, death. Jara, old age. Vyadi, and disease. Dukkha, of the distress. Dosha, the fault. Anudarshanam, observing. Asakti, being without attachment. Anabi Swangaha, being without association. Putra, for son. Dara, wife. Graha Adishu, home, etc. Nityam, constant. Cha, also. Samachittatvam, equilibrium. Ishta, the desirable. Anishta, and undesirable. Upattishu, having obtained. Mai, unto me. Cha, also. Ananyogena, by unallowed devotional service. Bhakti, devotion. Avavicharini, without any break. Vikta, to solitary. Desha, places. Sevitvam, aspiring. Arati, being without attachment. Janasamsadi, to people in general. Adhyatma, pertaining to the self. Jnana, in knowledge. Nityatvam, constancy. Tattva jnanam, of knowledge of the truth. Artha, for the object. Darshanam, philosophy. Etat, all this. Jnanam, knowledge. Iti, thus. Proktam, declared. Ajnanam, ignorance. Yat, that which. Ataha, from this. Anyata, other. Translation: humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All this I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance. So there are 18 and 20. So here I think in Bhagavadgita it is written as 20 items of knowledge. And I think in Ishopanishad we saw it as 18. A total 20. Let's see whether it is 18 or 20. We'll try to figure it out. I think Acharya has written it 16. First 16 or 17, 18, 19. 17, 18 are for Gyanis and first 16 are for Bhaktas. So what we can do is, each one of you can read one quality quickly and then we'll proceed. Otherwise, one shloka happens to be very, very big thing to read for. Just by reading the translation of this, it's exhausting. Yes. So what Prabhupada starts the purport with is, Prabhupada starts the purport with, this is actually how the Mayavadis think is anything related to this world is Maya, is ignorance. But Prabhupada gives a warning, no, don't mistake this knowledge to be ignorance. For example, a devotee like all of you are trying to practice bhakti. You might be staying in an apartment, you might be having vehicles, you may travel by plane, train, car, wherever it is. And you may wear a tilak, you may wear kantimala, you may chant Hare Krishna. And somebody who is staying in Himalayas, for him to figure out that these people can go beyond me is tough. He cannot understand it. So neither the neighbors who are staying, they will understand that these people will surely make it back to Godhead. Or these people are really spiritualist. They're doing everything. They're eating such wonderful food. They're eating mal, paneer sabji, puri, malpova, rabdi, gulab jamun, and this is spirituality. So, but they don't understand that what makes any thing as yoga, karma, and karma yoga. When we do it for our own selfishness, that becomes karma. When we do it for the pleasure of some authority in the Vedic literature, or directly spiritual master, or Lord Krishna, or Vishnu, it becomes yoga. So what is mentioned in the whole Bhagavad Gita from 1st chapter to 18th chapter, it is speaking about accepting Krishna, doing for the pleasure of Krishna, either through karma, either through jnana, either through dhyana, ashtanga, or bhakti. And therefore, it is told it has 3 compartments. First 6 karma, last 6 jnana, middle between it's pure bhakti, ananya bhakti. But in both the cases, a person may do karma and offer it for the pleasure of Krishna. He is on the path of progress towards Krishna. And in the last one, a person in the 13th chapter, a person may practice bhakti and may achieve his desired object as Paramatma. He's also progressing. And somebody is in between 16, in middle 6 chapters, he's doing pure devotional service, he may get prema. So in that way, Bhagavadgita speaks about pure devotional service. Middle 6. And throughout speaks about devotional service. So what most of the people do right in this age is, when they see all these things, they sing naiti naiti. Not this spiritual is something void, something vague. You should be out of the box, away from society. But Prabhupada says no. Don't mistake this knowledge to be ignorance. This is in fact knowledge. Why? Because Krishna is speaking this. And because Krishna is speaking this, Dharma to Sakshat Bhagavat Pranita. So with that he begins. And then Prabhupada goes down, telling that the goal of this knowledge is nothing short of pure devotional service, Ananya Bhakti. And that is the 16th item of the knowledge. This is having 20 items. The 16th item, if you count from Amanitva Madhanitvam, Ananya Bhakti comes 16th. And how to start that Ananya Bhakti? It's not very tough. You have to just accept a guide. We have guide for so many things. If you want to do calligraphy, you need a guide. If you want to do art, you need a guide. If you want to go to gym, you need a guide. If you want to have some diet, you need a dietitian. You need a guide everywhere. So similarly, for practicing Ananya Bhakti also, you need a guide who has perfected it. And therefore, work begins with that out of all the items of knowledge mentioned here, the goal of this items of knowledge is to become a devotee of Lord. And it starts with accepting a acharya, or accepting a bona fide sampradaya, and accepting a spiritual master. Submission. If one is not humble, he will not accept acharya. So the beginning stage is humility. And at the end, Prabhupada concludes, he goes through all the items of knowledge, gives brief description. At the end, he comes, the greatest misery or the disaster for the living entity is he is not humble. And because he is not humble, he thinks that he is God. And that is a great catastrophe. Prabhupada concludes the purport with that at the end. Okay. So what we'll try to do now is quickly we one by one, all of you can start reading in order, and we will go ahead. I think we can have a serial number from next time, or otherwise I have to keep on calling out all of your names to read.
I can read, Prabhuji.
Yes, you can start reading. I'll start one by one. You can start reading.
Shall I start from don't mistake this knowledge to be ignorance? Okay. Don't mistake this knowledge to be ignorance. This process of knowledge is sometimes misunderstood by less intelligent men as being the interaction of the field of activity. But actually, this is the real process of knowledge. If one accepts this process, then the possibility of approaching the absolute truth exists. This is not the interaction of the 24 elements as described before. This is actually the means to get out of the entanglement of these elements. The embodied soul is entrapped by the body, which is a casing made of the 24 elements, and the process of knowledge I described here is the means to get out of it.
Therefore, this is the process. If you have knowledge, then we can get out of this bodily concept of life. And how to cultivate the knowledge is this, which is mentioned in the shloka. Yes, next devotee.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanwa Pranam.
Yes.
I read. Goal of knowledge, Ananya Bhakti 16, and how to begin it. Archarya Prasannam.
Acharya Upasanam. Acharya is
Upasanam.
some accepting a bona fide spiritual master coming in disciplic succession. For us, it's like Prabhupada and his followers.
Of all the descriptions of the
number which is mentioned in front of each quality is the number. If you start from Amanitvam first, then these are the numbers where Prabhupada is not mentioning it in order. Prabhupada is going according to his flow. Therefore, I mentioned the number so that you can. Yes, Prabhu, please continue.
Of all the descriptions of the knowledge of all the descriptions of the process of knowledge, the most important point is described in the first line of the 11th verse. Mai chanan yogena bhaktir avyabhicharani. The
11th verse, and it's the beginning of the 11th verse.
The process
you can read from here. So if
one does not approach or is not able to approach the transcendental service of the Lord, then the other 19 items are of no particular value. But if one takes to devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, the other 19 items automatically develop within him. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 5:18-12, Yasyati bhaktir bhagvate akinchan sarver gunesh tatra samashte surah. All the good qualities of knowledge develop in one who has attained the stage of devotional service. The principle of accepting a spiritual master, as mentioned in the 8th verse, is essential. Even for one who takes to devotional service, it is most important. Transcendental life begins when one accepts a bona fide spiritual master. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, clearly states that this process of...
Yes, Prabhu, 1 minute. Huh?
Sure.
Yeah. So the most important quality is Mai chanan yogena bhakti vicharini. And we have to begin that by accepting a bona fide spiritual master. Prabhupada writes it here, very important point. If one takes to devotional service, I'm highlighting it, in full Krishna consciousness, then all 19 items automatically develop within him. So many times it happens that apparently a person who's trying to practice bhakti, he may not be very saintly, or he may exhibit some worldliness. And apparently a person who is not a devotee of Krishna, he may exhibit so many wonderful qualities. But we have to see it from the point of view of Krishna and Prabhupada. That person who is trying to exhibit the so-called qualities so wonderfully, it is just because in the past life he has done some sukriti, therefore is exhibiting it right now. And the so-called devotee who's trying to exhibit some worldliness, it is because of some past life conditioning that worldliness is being exhibited, but right now he is being sheltered by Krishna. He's being cleansed by Krishna. And therefore, Prabhupada writes here, if one takes up the shelter of Krishna, Krishna will do the needful. And this is a repeating theme we have seen in the prayers of Ishopanishad at the end, in 17 mantra, in 16 mantra, in 18 mantra. Even if a devotee doesn't remember Lord at the time of death, Lord Krishna remembers that devotee. Therefore, Prabhupada is telling here, if simply practice bhakti, all the good qualities will come in a devotee's life. And therefore, yes, if we have a really very personality, we are having a very, very strong personality in terms of we are very angry or we are very fanatic and other things. Yes. In terms of when you want to preach, when you want to care for people, family members or new people, it becomes tough. So therefore, we need to try to control ourselves. But in terms of practice of bhakti can give us all the essential qualities. One should have that faith. So one may take help of some other therapies or something else, but ultimately bhakti is the ultimate therapy. One should never forget that. That is one point I wanted to highlight here, because many times people think that when we see devotees and they're not exhibiting some good qualities, and they think, you are a devotee, how can you do this? Yeah, if he continues to chant Hare Krishna, if he continues to read Prabhupada books, if he continues to be the Krishna devotees, he will change. It is only because of past conditioning, past life, karmic reactions, they're being exhibited in the form of worldliness. But he continues bhakti, you learn in nectar of devotion, the bijam, papam, putam, phalonmukam, everything will be burned to ashes. And therefore bhakti is Shri Krishna Akarshani. Yes, Prabhu, please continue. This process of knowledge is
This
actual.
process of knowledge is the actual path. Anything speculated beyond this is nonsense. As for the knowledge outlined here, the items may be analyzed as follows.
Next devotee can read.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Shall I read, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu, please read.
Amanitvam, humility, and adambitvam, pridelessness. Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. The material conception of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others. But from the point of view of a man in perfect knowledge, who knows that he is not this body, anything honor or dishonor pertaining to this body is useless. One should not be hankering after this material deception. People are very anxious to be famous for their religion, and consequently, sometimes it is found that without understanding the principles of religion, one enters into some group which is not actually following religious principles and then wants to advertise himself as a religious mentor. As for actual advancement in spiritual science, one should have a test to see how far he is progressing. He can judge by these items.
Now I'll just give you a bird's eye view of the whole 20 items of knowledge from the Baldev Vidyabhushan and Vishal Chakra Thakur, and then we'll come back to Prabhupada purpose so that we can try to understand what Prabhupada is trying to speak here. Okay, so I'll just try to go down. We can see step by step. Longest purport. Yes.
Yes.
So these are the items of knowledge. Amanitvam. That is humility. Okay, na? So now Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan, how he translates this, and Srila Vishnu Chakra Thakur, how he translates this. And then we'll come back to Prabhupada purport and read it, so that you become eager to understand what actually it is. What is the first item of knowledge? Amanitvam. Someone can try to read this.
Shall I read, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Items of knowledge, amanitva, Srila Baldeva Vidyabhushan, not expecting good reception or respect. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Tagore defined it as freedom from pride.
Yeah. Amanitvam means what? When we go to some place and we really are esteemed guest, or we feel that we are worth, and we go to some Krishna conscious festival or any festival for that matter, and somehow or the other the host is busy in so many things and it doesn't even come to greet us, and we think, "Arey, this is a festival and he is not even coming." Not about the okay, माता जी को भूल जाओ, प्रभु जी को भूल जाओ, माता जी की बहन है, माता जी की some other relatives are there anyway, and someone should come and tell me, at least give me a seat to sit, at least ask me, okay, you want some water? No, sure. Not expecting good reception or respect. We have come here because, okay, this is a festival, this is a Hare Krishna festival, or this whatever it is, as a duty. If it is non-devotional, then it's just a duty. Just come to as obligation. Anyways, if it is there in my karma, I'll get it. If it is not there, then I'll not get it. These people, they are simply the carrier of my karma. For a person who walks, if he gets a bus ride, he'll think, Bapre, I used to every day walk 2 kilometers. Today I'm going to sit in bus and I'm peacefully going to go. But somebody is going to who travels by a AC car, he has to come by bus. He will think, what has happened? So understood, na? Both personalities are getting opportunity to go by some bus, but for one it is like amazing, but for some other person it is like a curse. And if you see from a point of view, the person who is walking, yeah, because of his past karma, he has not got a facility. He has to walk, or he has to go by cycle, or he has to go by public transport. But if he gets he has to hang in a bus and travel. But if he gets a seat in a bus, he's so happy. But somebody, because of his good karma, he gets a AC car and he has to travel always. And somehow, because of some reasons, the car is punctured and he's not getting rickshaw and he has to somehow board the bus, or he has to go in metro and he's not getting seat. It's like, my lord. So Amanitvam means, once I was hearing from one devotee in Radha Gopinath temple. He was sharing me, you might be knowing about Rishikesh Mapatlal Prabhu. Arsha.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes. So, Krishna Chandra Prabhu. Pune Yatra used to happen in his house. And it is long, long back when his son Priyavrat was in first standard, second standard. And they are big businessmen. They have a muffled fabrics industry. So his mother asked him, Beta, you have an opportunity to either go by public transport to the school bus will come pick you up and go, or your father has 2-3 cars and so many employees, they can come and drop you. Which one you would like to prefer? The son told, surely by the car. Then the mother told, now we are rich, we have car, we have servants, and if we are accustomed to traveling by car to the school, then because of Krishna's arrangement, because of our past karma, we have this. After some time, if you lose all these things, when the time will come when all these things will not be there, that time what you will do? Then that time, if you want to go by public transport or school bus to your school, it will be, for a person who is honored, dishonor is worse than death. So Radha Gopinath Prabhu, this is one pastime. Radha Gopinath was sharing one thing of how in Gujarati family, especially in Surat and Katewadi, in the places where they have diamond industry, when they have to make one of their son as the main head of a diamond industry, what they do generally is they call him. First thing they do is they take his iPhone and they give him a button phone. and they give him 5,000 rupees. And they tell you can go to the railway station. There one person will give you a ticket. You have to board a train and go to to that state. Imagine, it is somewhere in Madurai. He is from Gujarat. He doesn't know Tamil. He has to go there. Now, after going there for 45 days, he has to find a job. 6 jobs, and every week he should change a job. And that person takes a ticket, boards a train, goes to a unknown XYZ place, approaches some sales agency, gets a job, tries to sell, and is so expert in business. Immediately, by the 4-5 days happens, the person is going to make him as a promote him and give him more salary. He has to leave that job and he has to go to some other job. And imagine he has taken up sales job and he is doing such wonderful sales, and suddenly after 4-5 days, manager comes and tells him, we'll promote you to the senior sales person, officer. Then he has to give up that and go. Then he has to go to some other person. Then he goes to hoteler and doesn't know Tamil. And some of the boss calls him and checks him his talent. Tell me which is one amazing sweet in your shop which I should buy. Then he says, sorry sir, there is not one amazing sweet in my shop. All sweets are very amazing. But in that also, if you want to take, there are 2 sweets which are outstanding. Instead of 1 sweet, he gives them 2 sweet. Then the boss has called him. He calls him up. Come up. I'm your boss calling. I was thinking, so I wanted someone for this sweet mart shop to be run. This old manager who is there is not able to do many of the sales. I want to hire your sales and send you to Mumbai for training, and I'll get you back. And like this, he keeps on going on. After 45 days, when he's changing his job, suddenly 3-4 people come and tap him. And he turns back and sees his father, his uncle, his brother has come. Now you're done. You showed us 45 days. You have gone to a XYZ place where you don't know anyone. You have tried to stand on your leg and try to take care of yourself. And he had a mobile phone on which he could just call them back and tell them how he's safe or not. After that time, he's put on the head of the institute of such a diamond company. So this is why this kind of training is given, so that the lesson is the worst times make strong men. The hard time makes strong men, and strong men make easy time. The father has struggled a lot. The son will relish like anything. Because father has struggled a lot, he has become a strong man and he has become successful and he has everything. Like Priyavrat, Prabhu, he had everything. But his mother told, no, just because your father has struggled, if you also take life easy, then you will not grow. You also try to work with hard time and also become a strong man. The nature of the world is hard time makes strong men, and strong man makes easy time, and easy time makes weak man. This is a cycle. And in order not to repeat this cycle, what they do is they train. That is the reason in olden days, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Brahmanas, all of them used to send their children to Gurukul from 5 years to 25 years. Even whether it is Yudhishthira Maharaj, whether it is Arjuna, whether it is Bhima, king of the whole world, he should go stay with his peers of 5 years to 25 years. Then after that, when somebody becomes a Brahmana, like Sudama, he graduated as a Brahmana, then Krishna came back to Mathura. That is how it happens. So that is the meaning of amanitvam, not expecting good reception or respect. Otherwise, what happens? We expect so much. But simple formula, when we accept respect, when we get respect, we should understand this is by the mercy of Krishna. It is in my karma. Krishna is only giving this karma. Karmana deva nitrena. And when you don't get honor, you should understand, yeah, this is what I deserve. I deserve actually worse than this, but I've got only this much. Then we learn accepting life. If we are not able to do this basic first principle, then where's the question of sitting and chanting? Where's the question of sitting and reading Shastras, contemplating Shastras, contemplating on Acharya's purports and trying to apply life? Nothing. So this doesn't mean that voluntarily we make our life difficult. What it means is wherever we may live in comfortable place, but that doesn't mean that we take it for granted. We should understand this is by the mercy of Krishna. So, amanitvam, not expecting good reception or respect. And Vishnu Chakra Thakur mentions it as freedom from pride. Yes, Adamitvam. Next.
Adamitva,
Yes.
not performing religious activities to become famous as a religious person. Chakravarti Thakur.
Yes, Mataji, you can read.
Yeah, Chakravarti Thakur referred to as lack of ostentation, pretentious, showy display of wealth, luxuries to impress.
Yes, there is a song in Maharashtra doing Ganpati say, Deva re Deva. In Hindi it is, Tumse badkar kaun aur tumhare bhakton mein humse badkar kaun. Basically, it's like they want to practice something, they want to show you are great because I am worshipping you. So many people want to put that name. I have built this temple. Out of this temple, about 100 crore, I have given 99.99 crore I have given. They want their names. Adam Bitvam. So Adam Bitvam is, they want to follow religious, but want to show the practice just for fame. Ahimsa.
Ahimsa, Srila Baldev Vidya.
You can just read, Mataji. You can just read this two. Now it is very clear.
Okay.
The
not giving pain to other jivas. It's
Yes.
non-violence.
Yes, no, this is very clear. And not giving pain, Prabhupada translates as not preaching. Yes, Shanti.
Shanti, toleration of insult, forbearance.
Yes. Shapta, Shipta, Hatapi, Natasya Kurvanti, Tad Bhakta Prabhoipi. Tiraskarta, Vipralabdha, Shapta, Shipta, Hatapi. Parikshit Maharaj, when he's being cursed, Sukadeva Goswami glorifies him. Tiraskrata, if somebody is neglected. Tiraskrata, Vipralabdha, somebody is not given proper reception. Shapta, somebody is cursed. Shapta, Shipta, somebody is injured. Hata, somebody is killed. Natasya Kurvanti, a devotee is not disturbed. Tad Bhakta Prabhopi. Our Vritrasura was cursed, but he told, thank you. He folded hand and told to Mother Parvati, I accept your curse. And then Shiva says, this is Narayana Parasarve, Nakutashana Vibhyate, Narkasvarga Vargeshu, Atpitulya Sulyartha Darshanam. They never become bewildered. So that is Shanti, toleration of insult and forbearance. Arjavam.
Prabhuji,
Straightforwardness, even to the.
Yes, Mataji, you have some question?
Prabhuji, yes, I have a question. All these qualities like humility and tolerance of insult and all. So what about the case if somebody is in an abusive relationship? It can, I understand one should not get disturbed by this, but doesn't mean that one cannot take action.
That will come. Basically, what you're telling is these are the qualities which are ideal, but in real life, when it comes to day-to-day life, we become disturbed, right?
Yeah.
Next quality will come. Next quality, when it comes, I'll try to tell this point. I knew this this question is going to come. Therefore, I showed this table. Now, when after this, when you go and read Prabhupada purport, it will become a little clear. Yes, Mataji.
Yeah.
Arjavam.
Ahimsa, not
Arjavam.
Arjava. Straightforwardness, even to the deceitful. Sincerity.
So how it is Arjavam means? Straightforwardness even to the deceitful means we may not be straightforward, but at least we should be sincerity. There should be sincerity from our heart that we want to be devotees of Krishna. And if somebody is an aggressor, like Duryodhana and the party were aggressors, which you see in the first chapter of Bhagavadgita. So Pandavas made it a point to fight with them. But they're straightforward. But even if they're straightforward, they wanted to become devotees and they took shelter of Krishna and they wanted to fight them. So Arjav matlab straightforwardness even to the deceitful. Deceitful means people will be there who will cheat. But this should not be misutilized that the people are cheating again and again, and you are like, okay, you cheat. No. Therefore, another word is given is sincerity. You are sincerely trying to practice Krishna consciousness, and the other person is trying to take undue advantage. Then you need to be having a solid boundaries. You should not allow him to be. It's not like you know somebody is a thief and allow him to come inside your home and take and go away. No. But while dealing with devotees, we should be surrounded. While dealing with our preceptors, while dealing with our senior devotees, we should not have any ill motivation. We should not be kapata. Yes. Acharya Upasanam.
Acharya Upasanam. Service without motivation to the Guru who bestows knowledge.
Yes, this
Worship
is what
of the
Baldev,
teacher.
yes, this is what Baldev Vishwabhushan says. Acharya Upasana means okay, accepting shelter of the Guru, but no. Serving Guru without motivation, ahituki, apratiyata. Service without motivation to the Guru bestows knowledge. So when we do unmotivated seva to Guru, then that gives knowledge. We may not have any gain from that. So we basically, when it comes to Krishna consciousness, we have no expectation at all. Only expectation is that you want peace and bhakti is so amazing. You want to just practice and go back to Godhead. But as and when we start practicing, chanting Hare Krishna, we become, after 1 year, 2 year, we become, okay, we start cultivating some people, and then we become a Bhakti Vriksha host. And after some time, we start doing programs, we start doing classes. My Lord. Then for everything, we have motivation. I will do this, I'll hear this authority if I get this. I will hear this if I get this. So in one way, management is a necessary will, but at the same time, you should understand that it is not my ability, my credibility, my aptitude by which I'm able to preach. Actually, I'm just an instrument. And people whom I'm preaching, they will come to Krishna consciousness. They'll become devotees. They'll come and offer obeisances to me. They'll tell Prabhu, आपने मेरा जीवन, आपने मुझे उद्धार कर दिया, this and that. But ultimately, Krishna knows what is in our heart. Therefore, inside of our heart, we should be convinced of this, that I'm just an instrument. Like that, a deity is kept on the top of a horse, and people are offering obeisances to the horse. The horse thinks that, what this whole Sri Rangam or Tirupati people are coming and offering obeisances to me. But if you forget that there is Lord Tirupalaji sitting there, or Ranganath is sitting there, then that is like that. So therefore, we are simply carrying Bhagavad Vida Bhagavatas Tirtha Bhuta Swayam Vibhu Tirthi Kurvanti Tirthani Swantasthena Gadabhata. A pure devotee, because he carries Lord Krishna in his heart and is realizing him, and therefore he gets a potency to deliver the world. And that potency is coming because of carrying Krishna in his heart. More and more one realizes, he becomes humble. Therefore, you see Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when you see Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, see Prabhupada. Prabhupada says in Dhruva Maharaj section, even if one person becomes a devotee, I'll consider my mission successful. Like Dhruva Maharaj's mother is going back to Godhead, and Dhruva Maharaj is asking this question, what will happen? I'm going back to Godhead, what about my mother? So Prabhupada writes, if one of my disciple becomes a pure devotee like this, then he will take me back to Godhead. It's not just boasting. It is not just, it's some show. Prabhupada is meaning it. That is the meaning of a pure devotee. So we understand that he's simply an instrument. So Acharya, because he worshipped Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj without motivation, the Guru who bestows knowledge. So this is very, very important point. Acharya Upasana. Yes, Mother, next, Saucha.
Saucha. Internal and external purity, Sandilya Upanishad. Both internal and external cleanliness, Sandilya Upanishad.
Yeah, both are quoting Sandilya Upanishad, both Acharyas. Saucha means internal cleanliness, external cleanliness. Internal cleanliness means remembering Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare, keeping our chitta clean. External cleanliness by taking bath after all our activities. Washing our hands, Prabhupada speaks about it. Stairya.
Dhairya. Steadiness on the spiritual path. Steadiness.
Stairya is to take up some activity and stick to it. Not in take up and leave it, take up and not, especially spiritual practice. Especially this refers to chanting 16 rounds, following 4 different, basically chanting 16 rounds, the yama part. You have to steadily do it, getting up and trying to get up. Okay, whatever time you fixed up, wake up in that time, chant your rounds, and read Prabhupada books, do the particular sadhana. That includes steadiness. Yes, next.
Atma Vinigraha.
Mataji, you had a
Restraining the
question,
mind.
na? You were asking question, we have to restrain and we get disturbed and other things. This is a quality. Yes.
Restraining the mind from sense objects which are obstacles for attaining Atma. Control of the mind.
Yes. So all these qualities are there. We have to develop these qualities. But as Prabhupada says, if we chant Hare Krishna, try to become a devotee, all these qualities will come. But at the same time, some quality in this will be like for us extreme. So we should try to control it. So Atma Vinigraha here refers to we can easily get into it. We are susceptible to it. Or it is in front of us. We are not able to control it. So we need to try to control it. That is the meaning of Atma Vinigraha. Okay? Facility is there to get disturbed. But then we try to restrain the mind from the perpetrator or whoever is causing that. That is the meaning of control of mind. It's not that it is happening in the mind, but I'll not try to act on it. That is Atma Vinigraha. And this also refers to some of the conditionings which we have, which are not easily, we are not able to give it up. There are 6 anarthas: lust, anger, greed, envy, illusion. It can refer to all of them, which we are trying our best, but still you're not able to give it up. That refers to Atma Vinigraha. We should try to control it for a higher cause, for the pleasure of spiritual master, for the pleasure of Guru. We need to, and that is what we do in Diksha. When we tell today onwards, I'll strictly follow 40 principles: no meditating, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, and try to chant in 16 rounds and serve the mission of Prabhupada. Serve the mission of Prabhupada in the mode of servant. We should always keep on remembering this. Yes, for this higher purpose of the parampara, for my Guru, I should do this. So this is very tough, but still for the higher purpose. That is called as Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti means impure mind and senses. We don't have genuine love for Krishna. We have no love for Krishna. We are not Raganuga Bhaktas. Vaidhi Bhaktas is Sadhana Bhakti. Raganuga Bhakti is also Sadhana Bhakti. But Vidhi means we don't like to, but still somehow other we try to. Like when somebody gets married, they may not like to, but for the higher purpose of what society will tell, they try to. And over a period of time, what happens? The marriage stays. Or some North Indian people, they would not like to eat rice and dal. But when they come, they have to come to some place in such area where there is no chapati. Then they develop eating rice and dal, and they do business, and they love eating rice over a period of time. That is practice. So Vinigraha means practice. Atma Vinigraha. Yes, next. Vairagya Indriya Arteshu.
Lack of taste for the sense objects which are obstacles. Detachment from enjoyment of sense objects.
These are those things which we have controlled. Like if somebody is like, they're out of 40 principle, somebody might be eating meat. But after chanting Hare Krishna, after taking prasad, meditating, I'll never fall for it. There's some of the things which a person will like, I don't have to control. Unconsciously also I can be competent. Unconscious competence. It is something called as conscious incompetence, unconscious incompetence. Before coming to Krishna consciousness, we are not conscious only that this is wrong. And then there is conscious incompetence. We become conscious, I should not do all these things. And then third step is consciously you become competent. No, I should take Diksha. I have taken Diksha. I have to strictly follow these things. After some time, you become unconsciously competent. So Atmanigra is conscious competent stage. Vairagya Indriya Riteshu is unconscious competence. Without a conscious, we are able to give up those things. Therefore, it's called Vairagya. Vairagya means you are detached out of it. But Atmanigra means you are not detached. You need to control. Still, the mind senses have the taste for it. So we need to control it. Anahankara.
Ahkara, giving up identification with the body and other material objects. Lack of identification with body.
Yes. Anahankara means body. I am not this body. Ahankara is body. Anahankara is identification of the body and other material objects. Lack of identification with the body. What are other material objects? Graha, Suta, Apta, Vitti, Janasya, Moham, Aham, Mameti. Doshanu Darshanam.
Doshanu darshanam. To
Salary,
contemplate.
Prabhuji?
Yeah, sure, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji is tired. I can understand it's tough reading.
That's why I asked Prabhuji. Doshanu darshana, to contemplate repeatedly the faults of birth and other stages of life which gives rise to suffering. To observe constantly the detrimental effect of sorrow caused by birth, death, old age, and disease.
Yeah, Doshanu Darshanam means Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, Dukkha, Doshanu Darshanam. So, constantly observe whenever we go outside, whenever we see neighbors here and there, accident, somebody is admitted, somebody's funeral is going on. Shastra Chakshu. This is going to happen with me also. Dukkha, Doshanu Darshanam. Always you should understand that, okay, when we get in the morning, I got order day to day. To practice, to chant, to sing Mangalarti, to read Prabhupada books, to take prasad. Let me do it consciously. Doshanu Darshan, constantly. Detrimental effect of sorrow caused by birth, death, old age, and disease. Yes.
Ashakti, lack of affection for sons and other persons, as affection is an obstacle for the spiritual goal. To give up affection for sons and others.
Yes. Asakti, lack of affection for sons and other persons, as affection is an obstacle for the spiritual goal. To give up affection for sons and others. What it means is, you come to Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th chapter. There is Anga, a descendant in Dhruva Maharaj. And Anga is married to Suni, somebody with the name Suni, something like that. And the son of Anga and that Mataji is Vain. And Vain is such a big dacoit. The great underworld dons used to fear him. Since childhood used to get him. You might have heard about him, right? So in childhood, whenever he used to go for picnic, he used to take a person and dump him inside the water. Break somebody's head. His father tried to teach him so many times, but he could not understand it. Later on, his father became frustrated and he left and took sannyas. Well, basically, he took vanaprastha and he understood. अगर मैं इसको पकड़ के बैठूंगा ना, ये मेरा भी डेस्टिनेशन जीवन का आगे का हराम कर देगा. Imagine if somebody is catching a high voltage electric wire and you think that you can save him. Or somebody is drowning and you think that you can save him. Same thing. Same thing when I did what he did, Anga Maharaj, he understood and he just understood this is because my wife's father quality has come in him. And therefore, let me take it, accept it. I cannot change him. Lord will take care of him. So ultimately depended on Lord and he left that place and he went to Vanaprastha, perfected his life and went back to Godhead. So at some stage, I have seen many devotees, when they come to Krishna consciousness, when I travel, they say, प्रभु जी, हम तो भक्ति में आ गए, दीक्षा हो गया, लेकिन हमारा बेटा बचपन बहुत अच्छा भक्ति करता था, लेकिन अभी भक्ति नहीं करता है. उसके बारे में सोच के मेरा पीठ दर्द हो रहा है, क्रॉनिक डिसीज आ गया है, माई हेल्थ हैज गॉन डाउन, whole toxins has filled my whole body. So what I feel is, like, we have left Krishna in the spiritual world and come to the material world. Our near and dear ones also have left Krishna in the spiritual and come to the material world. If they can leave Krishna and come to the material world, they can leave any so-called mother and father in this life, in last life, in next life, and they can do their own independent thought process. So what Bhagavad Gita, this verse is trying to teach us is, we can do our duty. We have a right to do our duty, but we should not be attached to the fruits. So therefore, what is the thing lesson we learn from this asakti is, let us try to become devotees. Let us try to fly our own aircraft. Let us not try to force people who don't want to fly the aircraft back to Godhead and forcefully make them come and sit, and then what they do, they open the door and they jump, and to catch them we also go jump outside. We should not do that. That is meaning of lack of affection for sons and other persons, as affection is an obstacle for the spiritual goal. Anabhisvangaha.
Lack of absorption in happiness and distress, even when they are present. Lack of identification with the happiness and distress of sons and others.
Yeah, Anabhisvanga means when sons, they grow up, when they take up the business, they want to get married, the mother and father, they want to enjoy through their children. If they should get married, they should produce children. Oh, children, there is, why they are not producing children? Why the offspring is not coming? Life goes on like this. If at all people can accept the law of karma, it becomes so easy. If at all people can accept Krishna, and by Krishna is a witness, and because of him, Upadrashta, Anumanta, Bharta, Bhokta, Maheshwaram, then Anabhisvanga becomes very easy. So we should not identify with the happiness and distress of the sons and others. Basically, like Krishna is detached when he creates a material world, we also, till the time our blood relatives, whatever duty we have obliged to them, we should do it. But after doing our duty, we can continue to do the duty, but we should be detached from the fruits of that duty. If we are not, then we'll learn it in a hard way. Okay? Yes. Samchittatvam.
To be at all times without joy or depression and attaining favorable or unfavorable items. To remain calm in the face of receiving either favorable or unfavorable treatment or events.
Yes, this we can see from the life of Lord Shri Ram. When Lord Shri Ram was told that tomorrow is going to be your Pattabhishekam, he never smiled. And overnight, when somebody came and told him, Ram, you have to step down, you have to go to Vanvas, you have to make your head matted, there was never a sorrow. He was grave. Samachittatvam. Generally, what happens in this world is when happiness comes, oh, we become so happy. We jump, we fly like a bird up in the sky. And when distress comes, we become like ostrich. We dump our head and we don't want to come outside. It's like depression. Therefore, samachittatvam. Nature of this world is, sometimes happiness will be there, sometimes distress will be there. So let us become stable. Let us become steady. Let us become equipoised. Yes. Avyavicharini bhakti. This is the most important. This is the main theme of the qualities.
Steady bhakti unto me, the Supreme Lord, in such processes as hearing with great concentration and service to my devotees. Ananya Yogena. One should have bhakti unmixed with karma, jnana, tapa or yoga, mahi unto me. Shyamasundara, which cannot be stopped by any means at all.
So basically, pure bhakti unmixed with karma, jnana, tapa, yoga, with a pure motive, with following the ninefold process, Shravanam, Kirtan, Vishnu, Smarana, with a focus to please Hari, Guru and Vaishnavas, especially to Lord Hari. So that is what is being told here. Yeah, this is the main quality. If you develop this, automatically all the qualities will come. but we should continue practicing bhakti. We should not stop practicing bhakti, whatever may happen in our life. Adhyatma jnana nittatvam.
There should be continuous deliberation on the Atma, Adhyatma. One should engage in the knowledge related to soul constantly, Nityam, in order to maintain purity of the objects of meditation.
Yes. So this Adhyatma jnana nittatvam tattva jnana darshan, this refers to jnanis, especially those who are in the search of Brahman and Paramatma, who are taken up with Jnana Yoga. They have to continuously deliberate on the Atma Gyan or Paramatma Gyan, purity of the objects of meditation. So these two qualities, they refer not to devotees, but to Gyanis. That is what Chakravarti Pad and Baldev Vidyabhushan, both Acharya, is going to comment. Tattva Dhyana Darshanam. Next, Mataji, you can read last one.
Yes, Prabhu. There should be remembrance in the heart, darshanam, for attaining Tattvajnana. The Tattva or truth is that I, Krishna, am the Supreme Brahman, as is known from the Smritis, SB 1.2.11. One should always keep in mind one's goal of moksha in one's cultivation of knowledge of truth. Hare Krishna.
So this both refers to Jnanis. So first 18 items refer to Lord Krishna. So after understanding this quickly, we will go now. We were here. Yeah, we have completed this non-violence. Yes, somebody can read this one now.
May I read, Prabhu?
Yes, please.
Ahimsa, non-violence. Non-violence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body, but actually non-violence means not to put others into distress. People in general are trapped by ignorance in the material concept of life, and they perpetually suffer material pains. So unless one elevates people to spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. One should try his best to distribute real knowledge to the people so that they may become enlightened and leave this material entanglement, that is non-violence.
Yes. Preaching Krishna consciousness is non-violence. And not preaching Krishna consciousness is violence. Next, somebody else can read Shanti. Tolerance.
Yes, Prabhuji, I can read. Shanti, tolerance. Tolerance means that one should be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others. If one is engaged in the advancement of spiritual knowledge, there will be so many insults and much dishonor from others. This is expected because material nature is so constituted. Even a boy like Prahlad, who only 5-year-old was engaged in the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, was endangered when his father became antagonistic to his devotion. The father tried to kill him in so many ways, but Prahlada tolerated him. So there may be many impediments, so making advancement in spiritual knowledge, but we should be tolerant and continue our progress with determination.
You can read Archavam, simplicity.
Yes, Prabhuji. Archanam, simplicity, and Acharya Upasanam. Simplicity means that without diplomacy, one should be so straightforward that he can disclose the real truth even to an enemy. As for acceptance of the spiritual master, that is essential, because without the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, one cannot progress in the spiritual science. One should approach the spiritual master with all humanity, and offer him all services so that he will be pleased to bestow his blessings upon the disciple. Because a bona fide spiritual master is a representative of Krishna, if he bestow any blessing upon his disciple, that will make the disciple immediately advance without the disciples following the regulative principles. Or the regulative principles will be easier for one who has served the spiritual master without reservation. Saucham, cleanliness. Cleanliness is essential for making advancement in spiritual life. There are two kinds of cleanliness, external and internal. External cleanliness means taking a bath, but for internal cleanliness, one has to think of Krishna always and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This process cleans the accumulated dust of past karma from the mind.
Yes, some other devotee can read.
Shall I read, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Steadiness means that one should be very determined to make progress in spiritual life. Without such determination, one cannot make a tangible process. And self-control means that one should not accept anything which is detrimental to the path of the spiritual progress. One should become accustomed to this and reject anything which is against the path of spiritual progress. This is real renunciation. The senses are so strong that they are always anxious to have sense gratification. One should not cater to these demands which are not necessary. The senses should only be gratified to keep the body fit so that one can discharge his duty in advancing in spiritual life. The most important and uncontrollable sense is the tongue. If one can control the tongue, then there is every possibility of controlling the other senses. The function of the tongue is to taste and to vibrate. Therefore, by systematic regulation, the tongue should always be engaged in tasting the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna and chanting Hare Krishna. As far as the eyes are concerned, they should not be allowed to see anything but the beautiful form of Krishna. That will be controlled to the eyes. Similarly, the ears should be engaged in hearing about Krishna, and the nose in smelling the flowers offered to Krishna. This is the process of devotional service, and it is understood here that Bhagavad-Gita is simply expounding the science of devotional service. Devotional service is the main and sole objective. Unintelligent commentators on the Bhagavad-Gita try to divert the mind of the reader to other subjects, but there is no other subject to Bhagavad-Gita than devotional service. Shall I continue, Prabhuji? False ego means accepting his body as oneself. When one understands that he is not his body and his spiritual soul, he comes to his real ego. Ego is there. False ego is uncondemned, but not real ego. In the Vedic literature, Brahad Aranyaka Upanishad 1.4.10, it is said, Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman, I am spirit. This I am the sense of self also exists in the liberated stage of self-realization. The sense of I am is ego, but when the sense of I am is applied to this false body, it is false ego. When the sense of self is applied to reality, that is real ego. And there are some philosophers who say we should give up our ego, but we cannot give up our ego because ego means identity. We ought, of course, to give up the false identification with the body. One should try to understand the distress of accepting birth, death, old age, and disease. There are descriptions in various Vedic literatures of birth. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the world of unborn, the child stay in the womb of the mother, its suffering, etc., are all very graphically described. It should be thoroughly understood that the birth is distressful. Because we forget how much distress we have suffered within the womb of the mother, we do not make any solution to the repetition of birth and death. Similarly, at the time of death, there are all kinds of sufferings, and they are also mentioned in the authoritative scriptures. There should be discussed. And as far as disease and old age are concerned, everyone gets a practical experience. No one wants to be diseased and no one wants to become old, but there is no avoiding this. Unless we have a pessimistic view of this material life, considering the distress of birth, death, old age, and disease, there is no impetus for our making advancement in spiritual life.
Yes, some other devotee can read. Thank you, Boo, for reading.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Babu, I can read.
Yes, yes, Boo.
13 Asaktir and Anabhisha Sangha Putra Dhara, the 4 steps to make happy home. As for detachment from children, wife, and home, it is not mean that one should have no feeling of these for these. They are natural objects of affection. But when they are not favorable to spiritual progress, then one should not be attached to them. The best process for making the home pleasant in Krishna consciousness, the one is in full Krishna consciousness, he can make his home very happy. Because this process of Krishna consciousness is very easy. One need only chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Second, accept the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna. Third is have some discussion on books of like Bhagavadgita and Srimad Bhagavatam and engage oneself in deity worship. These four things will make one happy. One should train the members of his family in this way. The family members can sit down morning and evening and chant together Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If one can mold his family life in this way to develop Krishna consciousness, following these four principles, then there is no need to change from family life to renounced life. But if it is not congenial, not favorable for spiritual advancement, then family life should be abandoned. One must sacrifice everything to realize serve Krishna, just as Arjuna did. Arjuna did not want to kill his family members, but when he understood that these family members were impediments to his Krishna realization, he accepted the instruction of Krishna and fought and killed them. In all cases, one should be detached from the happiness and distress of the family life, because in this world, one can never be fully happy or fully miserable.
Yes, so I'd like to add something on this. When I told the example of Vain Maharaj, Anga Maharaj living Vena, that was on this condition. It's not that we have no affection for the family members. We have their blood relatives. We have natural object of affection. But this becomes applicable when, in case of Anga Maharaj, when Vain was not able to hear his good instruction, he tried his best till the time he became the prince. At that moment, he thought, no, I've tried my best. Now I have to cut. Then, but when they are not favorable to spiritual progress, then one should not be attached to them. So what it means is, Prabhupada is quoting example of Arjuna here. Arjuna was fighting with his own blood relatives. But in case of Arjuna, they were aggressors. They had done all those things. First canto of Bhagavatam, Kuntiparani says, Vishan Mahadagne, Satsabha, so many things were there. So therefore, the tit for tat was they had to be killed. But in our case, family members, they may not be favorable to a practice of Krishna consciousness. We don't have to take any extreme step toward them. We just practice our bhakti, just continue praying to Krishna. That's it. And this needs a guidance from a senior counselor or guide who's guiding your life personally. So basically, don't expect anything from them. If they're allowing you to chant, if you are being allowed to offer prasad to bhoga to the Lord, and if you're able to read Bhagavadgita Bhagavatam, and if you're able to worship deity, these four things, be happy doing these four things at your home. These four things will make one happy. Family members may not become happy, but at least you will become happy. And the goal of life is to fly one's own aircraft, like Anga Maharaj did. When it is not favorable, if it is favorable, then it's fine. It is like the people say, Sone pe suhaga, something like that. Yes, I'm also chanting and the whole family is chanting. That is another thing. But we should never forget that whether it is favorable, whether it is not favorable, I have to practice my bhakti. These are the four things which Prabhupada mentions here. Chant, offer bhoga, read Bhagavad Gita, and engage deity worship. This can give tremendous spiritual practice. And don't expect much from family members if they're not favorable. Yes, next. Varun Prabhu, can read this one? Next. Nityacha samatitatum ishtanishtopas.
Sure, Prabhuji. Should I read the translation directly?
Yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Happiness and distress are concomitant factors of material life. One should learn to tolerate. As advised in Bhagavad Gita, one can never restrict the coming and going of happiness and distress. So one should be detached from the materialistic way of life and be automatically equipoised in both cases. Generally, when we get something desirable, we are very happy. And when we get something undesirable, we are distressed. But if we are actually in the spiritual position, these things will not agitate us. To reach that stage, we have to practice unbreakable devotional service. Devotional service to Krishna without deviation means engaging oneself in the 9 process of devotional service: chanting, hearing, worshipping, offering respect, etc., as described in the last verse of the 9th chapter. That process should be followed. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Somebody else would like to read next part?
Yes, Prabhuji, can I read?
Yes, Mataji, please. Viktadesh Sevitvam, Aratir Jana Samsiddhi, Tattva Jnanartha Darshan.
Naturally,
Naturally.
naturally, when one is adapted to the spiritual way of life, he will not want to mix with material men. That would go against his grain. One may test himself by seeing how far he is inclined to live in a solitary place without unwanted association. Naturally, a devotee has no taste for unnecessary sporting or cinema, going or enjoying some social function, because he understands that these are simply a waste of time. There are many research scholars and philosophers who study sex life or some other subject, but according to Bhagavadgita, such research work and philosophical speculation have no value. That is more or less nonsensical. According to the Bhagavad-Gita, one should make research by philosophical discretion into the nature of the soul. One should make research to understand the self. That is recommended here.
Should make a research into the self. That is recommended here. Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam.
As far as self-realization is concerned, it is clearly stated here that Bhakti Yoga is specially practical. As soon as there is a question of devotion, one must consider the relationship between super soul and individual soul. The individual soul and super soul cannot be one, or at least not in the Bhakti conception, the devotional conception of life. This service of the individual soul to the Supreme Soul is eternal, Nityam, as it is clearly stated. So Bhakti or devotional service is eternal. One should be established in that philosophical conviction. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, this is explained. Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yaj jnanam advayam. Those who are actually knowers of the absolute truth know that the self is realized in 3 different phases as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Bhagavan is the last word in the realization of the absolute truth. Therefore, one should reach up to that platform of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus engage in the devotional service of the Lord. That is a perfection of knowledge.
After speaking all these things, what Prabhupada concludes is this Jnanam, the whole 8 to 13th chapter, 13th verse, it is prescribing about what is Jnana. It is not Jnana, it is a process for realization of that Jnana. What is that? Soul and super soul. So out of these 20 items of knowledge, the first 18 that refer to devotee, and the last 2 they refer to the Jnani. But Ananya Bhakti, which is referring that is specifically to the devotee. Prabhupada says here, beginning from the practicing humility up to the point of realization of the Supreme Truth, the absolute person of Godhead. This process is just like a staircase, ground floor to going up to the top floor. On the staircase, there are so many people who have reached the first floor, the second floor, the third floor. But unless the top floor, which is the Mai Chanan Yogena Bhakti Ravavicharini, should be understood that he is at the lower stage of knowledge. If anyone wants to compete with God and at the same time make advancement in spiritual life, I told you in the beginning of the class, humility means he's ready to accept God, he's ready to accept Guru, and then if he accepts, he understands that, okay, let me submit to somebody who knows much better than me, and he's a bona fide person. Like Acharya Upasana means a bona fide spiritual master, we are ready to submit unto him and take up bhakti. But somebody is not humble, he thinks I know syndrome. Then he thinks oneself God is most puffed up. Prabhupada is writing here. It is clearly stated that without humility, understanding is not truly possible. And what is not having humility? To think oneself God is most puffed up. Although the living entity is always being kicked by the stringent laws of material nature, he still thinks I am God because of ignorance. The beginning of knowledge, therefore, is amanitvam, humility. I'm not God. I'm a servant of God. Let me try to understand God. Let me try to take shelter of a person who has understood God. So he should be humble and know that he is subordinate to the Supreme Lord. But due to rebellion against the Supreme Lord, one becomes subordinate to the material nature. So either we have to become subordinate, either to Lord or his Maya. But these people want to become rebellion. They want to become submissive to the Maya. One must know and be convinced of this truth. So, Gurujan Prabhu writes in his book, Surrender Unto Me, according to both Baldev Vidyabhushan and Chakravarti Path, out of the 20 items mentioned, 17 apply both to Jnani and Bhakta. The first 17. And the 18th is the constant devotion. Mai Chanani Yogena Bhakti Ravi Vicharini, that refers to only Bhakta. And what are the two qualities which refers to the Jnani? Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam, philosophical search, and Tattva Jnana Darshanam are meant for the Jnanis. And constant devotion, that is meant for the Bhaktas. And the Bhaktas don't devote effort to the 17 items individually. They just try to become a devotee, and after becoming a devotee, then automatically they achieve the remaining qualities. And in this, the word cha, Chakravarti mentions here, the word cha, which is mentioned, Mai Chanani Yogena, cha, because it's coming in the third section of Bhagavad Gita. So the cha has a significance, Chakravarti mentions. The word cha here indicates that bhakti may also be performed with a slight mix of jnana, or that is called as jnana mishra bhakti. The unmixed type, Mai cha ananya yogena. Ananya yogena is for prema. But cha, the second type, which is jnana mishra bhakti, is for realization of Paramatma, because it is jnana yoga. There is Brahman, there is Paramatma, there is Bhagavan. So even those people who are practicing jnana, unless and unless they don't mix bhakti, they will not get success. The person who is performing karma, he doesn't mix bhakti, that cannot be called as karma yoga. Therefore, that is the glory of devotion. All other processes are dependent on devotion. So cha here refers to that goal of Paramatma realization by a jnani. So he has to take shelter of the bhakti for that. That is being mentioned here. So these 20 elements are means of attaining knowledge of Jiva and Paramatma in general. Jnanam here refers to means of knowledge rather than knowledge itself. The special means of knowledge for realizing Paramatma will be explained later. Doing the opposite of this, that such as pride instead of lack of pride, is called as ignorance. The last two lines which is told, anything apart from this is ignorance. Here it comes. Etad jnanam iti proktam adjnanam yad ato anyatah. So anything apart from this is ignorance. So we gave enough time for this because this is very, very important quality, which can help us to develop jnanam. This is a means to develop jnanam. And what is the goal of jnanam? That is the next section. Next section is section from 13, 14, 15, 16, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So till now we have seen 6 questions: Purusha, Prakriti, Kshetra, Kshetragya, Jnanam, Geyam. And now Krishna has elaborately described what is that means for getting Jnanam. And now Krishna is going to describe Geyam. After getting this Jnanam, what is to be known? That is the next section. I'll just share the PDF for that. Yes. So after explaining the process of Jnanam, now the 6th question, Geyam. What is Geyam? The object of knowledge. Krishna is going to describe in 13 to 18 verses. And in the 19th verse, he's going to summarize it. So in whatever time we have, we'll try to complete it, because right now, the last section last session which we took, and now we almost built a nice foundation and building first floor. Now we have to go to build the second floor now. Neyam yatta pravikshami yajñatvamritam ashnute anadimat param brahma nasattan nashaduchyate. So Krishna is telling, what is the object of the knowledge? The object of knowledge is to know. Neyam yattat pravikshami yajñat amritam ashnute. By knowing that, one becomes Amar. And what is that? Anadi mat param brahma. Anadi, it's eternal. Mat param matlab I am superior to it. That means it is subordinate to me. Anadi, that which is subordinate to me, Brahman. That means it is a Jivatma Brahman. Nasat tan nasat uchyate. Basically, this 13th verse is referring to soul. The Kshetra, Kshetragya. Kshetra is body, Kshetragya, the person inside the body. Inside the body, there are two persons. One is soul, super soul. They are conditioned. But by getting the knowledge, the soul becomes liberated. So that is being mentioned here as Gayam. When Gayam is there, that is the liberated soul and supreme person of Godhead who is already liberated. Neyam yat prakshami, that purpose of the goal of that knowledge is to get liberated, to understand that you are eternal, the eternal soul. Eternity factor is being highlighted in the 13th verse. If someone can read this one?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Please read.
Hare Krishna. I shall now explain the knowable, knowing which you will taste the eternal. Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. The Lord has explained the field of activities and the knower of the field. He has also explained the process of knowing the knower of the field of activities. Now he begins to explain the knowable. First the soul and then the super soul. By knowledge of the knower, both the soul and the super soul, one can relish the nectar of life. As explained in the second chapter, the living entity is eternal. This is also confirmed here. There is no specific date at which the Jiva was born, nor can anyone trace out the history of the Jivatma's manifestation from the Supreme Lord. Therefore, it is beginningless. The Vedic literature confirms this. Najayati Mriyativa Vipaschit. Katha Upanishad 1.2.18. The knower of the body is never born and never dies, and he is full of knowledge. The Supreme Lord as the Super Soul is also stated in the Vedic literature, Svetasvatara Upanishad 6.16, to be Pradhana Kshetragna Patir Guneshaha, the chief knower of the body and the master of the three modes of material nature. In the Smriti it is said, Dashabhuto Harer Eva Nanyashaiva Kadachana. The living entities are eternally in the service of the Supreme Lord. This is also confirmed by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his teachings. Therefore, the description of Brahman mentioned in this verse is in relation to the individual soul, and when the word Brahman is applied to the living entity, it is to be understood that he is Vijnana Brahma as opposed to Ananda Brahma. Ananda Brahma is the supreme Brahman personality of the Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Oh, we had seen in the last session, there is a, by in a Vesti and Samasti process of ascending process, descending process. Descending process is Shabda Praman. Ascending process is Vesti Samasti. See the universe, you are the part, you understand yourself, you know the universe. Or you are the part of the universe, you study the universe, you understand. In that we saw these 5 koshas. There is Annamaya kosha, there is Pranamaya kosha, there is Jnanamaya, there is Vijnanamaya, there is Anandamaya. The first 3 are animalistic. The 4th, Vijnanamaya, the realization of the soul. And the 5th is Anandamaya, that is realization of the Bhagavan. So therefore, here this 13th verse is referring to Vijnana Brahma. That is referring to the soul which is liberated, or the consciousness of the soul who has realized himself. Basically, it is referring to Vijnana Brahma as opposed to Ananda Brahma. That is the conclusion of Baldev Vidyabhushan, which Prabhupada has taken it from there only. That is what even Bhurujan Prabhu makes very clear, and he quotes also. Balavidya Bhushan quotes this shloka here. The Jeev is known as the Brahman in the Shrutis. Vijnana Brahma Cheda Veda. If one knows that Atma is Brahman, that is which Brahman? Vijnana Brahman. And what Bhurujan Prabhu says, the terms Anand, the same thing which I already told. So he continues, 14 to 18, Krishna is going to speak about the Geyam, same like Upanishad. Ishopanishad we had studied, same verses you will feel like that. Taddeti, Tadnaiti, Tannaitati, Tadduri, Tadvantike, all those Anejadekam, Manasojaiva, same similar theme will come here. And if you read this 14 to 18, you will not understand what it is referring to. It is referring to soul, it is referring to super soul, what it is referring to. But Prabhupada mercifully, Bhurujan Prabhu says, Srila Prabhupada, however, in each translation and purport, mercifully reveals Krishna's intention that this verse describe the super soul. So, Geyam, the two objects of worship are Vijnana Brahma and Ananda Brahma. The soul is conditioned. The goal of the knowledge is to realize himself and realize Supreme Person of Godhead. So, realizing himself, 13th verse, realizing Supreme Person of Godhead, that is 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 verse. So now what this next verse are going to speak about the Geyam, that is super soul or Supreme Person of Godhead. Sarvata pani padam tat sarvato akshishiro mukam sarvata shutimal loke sarvam avratya tishtati. Yes, somebody else can read the purport, the translation.
I can read, Prabhuji.
I should call out devotees.
Can I
Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads, and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the super soul exists, pervading everything. This verse describes the supreme soul, not the individual soul. As the sun exists, diffusing its unlimited rays, so does the super soul or supreme personality of the Godhead. He exists in his all-pervading form, and in him exist all the individual living entities, beginning from the first greater teacher, Brahma, down to the small ants. There are unlimited heads, legs, hands, and eyes, and entities. All are existing in and on the super soul. Therefore, the super soul is all pervading. The individual soul, however, cannot say that has his hands, legs, and eyes everywhere. That is not possible. If he thinks that under ignorance, he is not conscious that his hands and legs are diffused all over. But when he attains to proper knowledge, he will come to that stage. His thinking is contradictory. This means that the individual soul, having become conditioned by material nature, is not supreme. The supreme is different from the individual soul. The Supreme Lord can extend his hand without limit. The individual soul cannot. In Bhagavadgita, the Lord says that if anyone offers him a flower or a fruit or a little water, he accepts it. If the Lord is far distance away, how can he accept things? This is the omnipotence of the Lord. Even though he is situated in his own abode, far away from earth, he can extend his hand to accept what anyone offers. That is his potency. In Brahma Samhita 5.37, it is stated, Goloka eva nivasti akhilatma bhuta. Although he is always engaged in pastimes in his transcendental planet, he is all pervading. The individual soul cannot claim that he is all pervading. Therefore, this verse describes the supreme soul, the personality of the Godhead, not the individual soul. Hare
Yes.
Krishna.
So therefore, 14, 15, 16, 17 is going to describe about Bhagavan, our super soul, our supreme Lord. Sarvendriya gunabhasham sarvendriya vivarjitam asaktam sarvabhrichaiva nirgunam gunabhoktrapcha. So two qualities Prabhupada is going to highlight in this verse, that is nirgunam and guna bhoktrapcha. That Nirguna means Lord has no material senses. Guna Bhoktaksha matlab he is not subjected to three modes. He has six qualities, six opulences. This is how the Acharyas comment. And Sarvendriya Gunabhasham, Sarvendriya Vivarjitam. Sarvendriya Gunabhasham refers to Lord as he is a person. Sarvendriya Vivarjitam matlab he is not, his senses and his body are not different. In our case, in conditioned stage, there is a soul. On the soul, there is subtle body, there is gross body. There is difference between duality exists between the senses and ourself. In case of the Lord, his subtle body, his gross body, and himself is same. That is the meaning of Sarvendriya Vivarjitam. That is what Prabhupada is going to explain in the purport. Yes, next devotee. Okay, I'll just follow.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, please read.
The super soul is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. He is unattached, although he is the maintainer of all living beings. He transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time, he is a master of all the modes of material nature. Can I read the...
Yes, Sarvendriya Gunabhasam, Sarvendriya Vivarjitam. Lord has no material form. That is meaning of Sarvendriya Gunabhasam. Sarvendriya Vivarjitam, but Lord has a spiritual form. That is the first two lines. Prabhupada gives this purport. Same thing.
The Supreme Lord, although the source of all the senses of the living entities, does not have material senses like they have. Actually, the individual soul has spiritual senses. But in conditional life, they are covered with the material elements, and therefore the sense activities are exhibited through matter. The Supreme Lord's senses are not so covered. His senses are transcendental and are therefore called Nirguna. Guna means the material modes, but his senses are without material covering. It should be understood that his senses are not exactly like ours. Although he is the source of all the sensory activities, he has his transcendental senses which are uncontaminated. This is very nicely explained in Sweta Swatra Upanishad in the verse Apini Pado Javano Gratiha. The Supreme Personality of God has no hands which are materially contaminated, but has his hands and but he has his hands and accepts whatever sacrifice is offered to him. This is the distinction between the conditioned soul and the super soul. He has no material eyes yet, but he has eyes. Otherwise, how could he see? He sees everything, past, present, and future. He lives within the heart of the living beings, and he knows what we have done in the past, what we are doing now, and what is awaiting us in the future. He is also, this is also confirmed in Bhagavadgita. He knows everything, but no one knows him. It is said that the Supreme Lord has no legs like us, but he can travel throughout the space because he has spiritual legs. In other words, Lord is not impersonal. He has his eyes, legs, hands, everything else. And because we are part and parcel of the Lord, we also have these things. But his hands, legs, eyes, and senses are not contaminated by material nature. Nirgunam guna bhoktircha astak
Asaktam sarva bhrichaiva. So Lord is the enjoyer of the six qualities, and he has no subject, and he is not having infection of material modes. And why we don't see him? Because we are infected by material modes. Yes, Puri.
Bhagavad Gita also confirms that when the Lord appears, he appears as he is by his internal potency. He is not contaminated by material energy because he is the Lord of material energy. In Vedic literature, we find that his whole embodiment is spiritual. He has eternal form called Satchit Ananda Vigraha. He is full of all opulences. He is the proprietor of all wealth and the owner of all energy. He is the most intelligent and is full of knowledge. These are some of the symptoms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is a maintainer of all living entities and the witness of all activity. As far as we can understand from Vedic literature, the Supreme Lord is always transcendental. Although we do not see his head, face, hands, or legs, he has them. And when we are elevated to the transcendental situation, we can see the Lord's form. Due to materially contaminated senses, we cannot see his form. Therefore, impersonalists who are still materially affected cannot understand the personality of Godhead.
Yes. So Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan says Sarvendriya Vivarjita means we have, because of karma, we have different body apart from soul. But Lord is not subjected to karma. And therefore, his body and his senses are one. They are not separate in Swarupa. He quotes from Shruti, Svetashwara Upanishad, how he catches swiftly, walks swiftly. He quotes different same statements from different Upanishads. And he's without the material gunas. Nirguna Sakshi Cheta Keval Nirgunascha. He's witnessed the consciousness without material qualities. So he's quoting different things. And Guna Broktra means, but he's an enjoyer or taster of the 6 gunas or bhagas known as Aishwarya, Virya, Yashasya, Shri, Gyan, and Vairagya. Like we have 6 opulences, no? So that is the meaning of Guna Bhoktutra. So therefore, the 4th Sanskrit words are coming in the shloka. So Prabhupada mentioned it in this way. In the 16th verse, Krishna is trying to tell about the super soul. We are discussing about Gneyam, but it's telling this Gneyam, Jnanam and Geyam. This Geyam is Avigneyam. Why? Who cannot understand it? Materially contaminated senses, we cannot understand it. One has to take shelter of Bhakti in Parampara. Then one can understand it. But this is a feature of the soul. God cannot be understood by one's mental concoction, speculation. Bhairantascha bhutanam acharam charam evacha acharam charam evacha sukshmatvat tad avidneya durastam chantike chatat. So it's dura, tad dure tadantike. Same words like Ishopanishad. He's inside, outside. Acharam charam. He's walking, he's not walking. Sukshmavat tad avidneya. He's very fine and he cannot be understood. But we are discussing Neyam. The object of knowledge is to know him. So why cannot be understood? Because materially contaminated senses cannot understand him. That is the meaning. The supreme truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and non-moving, charam, acharam. Because it's subtle, sukshmavat, avidneya, is beyond the power of material senses to see or to know. The dure, antike hai. Although far, far away is almost very near to all. You know why? Who is near to all? For devotees is very near to all. Correct? So I directly come to this point of we cannot see or understand with these material senses. Lord has a form. Lord is Narayana. So they basically Prabhupada quotes from same Baldev Vidyabhushan. Vedic literature, we understand that Narayana, Supreme Person, is residing both outside, inside. Is present in both spiritual and material worlds. Although is far away, still is very near to us. Then why it is difficult for us to see him? Because we have material senses. Therefore, in the Vedic language, it is said that to understand him, our material mind and senses cannot act. Otherwise, we have to purify our material mind and senses by sadhana bhakti. But one who has purified his mind and senses by practicing Krishna consciousness can constantly see him. Brahma Samhita, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanayana, Santa Sadavi Hridesha Vilokayanti. And Bhagavadgita 11.54, Bhaktyatu Ananya Shakya. So therefore, Buryanpu says that Krishna described the knowable in text 16. From text number 13 to 19 speaks about knowable. But how can the knowable be unknown? He's quoting it as avidneyam, indicates that super soul cannot be understood by material senses. Only by hearing with devotion from bona fide authority, Shabda Parman, one can understand it. Okay. So now, the next sloka, Prabhupada speaks about the further qualities of the super soul. Avivaktam cha bhuteshu vivaktam eva cha stitam bhutabrat bhartar cha tadneyam darshishnu prabhavishnu cha. Although the super soul appears to be divided among all beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is a maintainer of the every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all. Drashneshu. When pralaya happens, he absorbs. When he creates, he develops. Creation and pralaya, annihilation. Bhutabhrit. So what Prabhupada is quoting here is Prabhupada is quoting here an analogy again from Baldev Vidyabhushan, from Vishnu, from the Shruti mantra, like a sun which is there. It is seen by everyone. Whether one walks from here, one goes from here to America, on the top of his head he can see the sun. So similarly, when somebody is walking at the night, whether you're in Hyderabad, whether I'm in Pune, when I go out outside, if the moon is there, if I go on the terrace and see, the moon is on my head. If you go outside and see, the moon is on your head. Same analogy. Similarly, super soul is situated spiritual world, but for the creation purpose, he has appeared in the heart of each and every living entity as super soul, Supreme Lord Krishna. So when sun can be on your head, a moon can be on your head, which is material object. Why is it difficult for the Supreme Person of Godhead to appear in each and every person? So he's not divided, but he appears to be, he's undivided, but he appears to be divided among all beings as a super soul. So Prabhupada gives the example of this sun. Where is the sun? Everyone will say that is shining on his head. So this is also it is said in the Vedic literature that one Vishnu, similarly like sun, one Vishnu is present everywhere. Vishnu, Vishwa, Anu, in each and every atom of the universe. And by his omnipotency, just as the sun appears in many places to many persons, the Supreme Lord, also the maintainer of every living entity, devours at the time of annihilation and nourishes at the time of creation. And this was confirmed by Krishna. Arjuna is confirming it, seeing Krishna in the 11th chapter on the battlefield, Vishwarup Darshan. He's able to see that the universal form is devouring all the fighters, and it is biting, and the blood is coming from the universal form and is trying to lick it. He's the annihilator and the killer of all. When there is creation, he develops all from their original state. At the time of annihilation, he devours them. So Vedic hymns confirm the fact that he is the origin of all living entities and the rest of all. After creation, everything rests in his omnipotence, and after annihilation, everything again returns to rest in him. These are the confirmations of Vedic hymns. Yatova imani bhutani jayanti yena jatani jivanti yat prayanti abhisham vishanti tad brahma tad vijidnyasatvam. Taittiriya Upanishad 3.1.1. I think it's already time. 18 and 19, two shlokas are remaining. We will take it in the next class. Yes, only this much is remaining. We'll take it in next. We have covered a big chunk of shlokas today. So on the 19th, 18th is going to speak the same thing. Prabhupada speaks about the 4 features of the super soul. And he gives a purport for that and divides it. It's very, very simple purport. We'll try to discuss in the next class. And then concludes, and he concludes, this is Nayam. And then from the chapter, shloka number 20 to 27, it is about Purusha and Prakriti. Okay. So we will just complete these 2 shlokas, 18 and 19 in the next class. And then we'll start with Purusha and Prakriti. So we have completed out of 6 questions. Kshetra, Kshetragya, Jnanam, Gyayam is completed. Remaining is Purusha and Prakriti that we will discuss in the next class on coming Monday. Shloka number 18, 19 will speak about the Nayam, continuation of the Nayam. And then from 20 to 27 we'll speak about Purusha and Prakriti. Hare Krishna. Any questions? It's already 6 minutes late. If you have any questions, you can put, otherwise we'll end now.
Krishna Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Upasthit Gaur Bhakti Vrinda ki
Jai. Hare Krishna. Pranam.
Thank you.